Hello, people. How you doing today? Let me get this out of here real quick, and I'm going to talk to you about a couple things. Uh, Two things I want to talk to you about. These are pretty much breaking stories. The Daily News just dropped a story, and they wrote a story in favor of the feds, and the feds basically, it seems like they contacted the Daily News and gave them this story, and it's based on Gene Borrello, and we're going to talk about that. I'm going to read the Daily News article. It's a brand new article, and it just came out today or this morning. And also, we're going to talk about Sammy Gravano. Sammy Gravano had a show taken down yesterday. It's disappeared, and I'm going to tell you why it disappeared. Sammy said something that he wasn't supposed to say. He said a couple things in the video that has caused issues. Let's put it that way. Uh, and once again, when you get to a certain age and you act a certain way, uh, we'll talk about it, But Sammy is having some real serious issues, and we're going to discuss that. So those are the two main stories today. But I also like to say this. I got attacked by a lot of people yesterday, 2 days ago, for doing the Gene Borrello story. I got attacked by his girlfriend, who used to be his victim. The one that he was chasing around and stalking. Now she's saying that he wasn't doing it, and she's defending him in court. And I'll read you that, but I don't think that's going to help him in court. He has more serious problems. There's many other crimes that he committed that has nothing to do with the stalking, and that's why they're going after him. And then with Sammy Gravano, I'll tell you exactly what he said, and you guys can make up your mind. And what I'm trying to do here is report this stuff. I don't want to attack people. I don't want to dox people. I'm trying to become a serious show here. And that's why I'm trying to present these stories for you. So you guys get them. Not everybody lives in New York and pull up the Daily News. You have to pay for the subscription. So I'm going to read it to you right here. So today you're going to be getting this story right from me. And let me do it right now so you guys don't run away from me. Okay, I'm going to add this to the stream, people. The name of the story is Mob, and this was released actually 6:30 last night, and I seen it this morning, 6:19 right there, and it's written by John Ednese, and that's of the New York City crime part of the newspaper, and it's in the front of that part. Now, unfortunately, this crap, when you order this stuff online, it has a lot of commercials, but we're going to ignore that. And I'm going to read what he says. He's given up his mob life podcast, but not his life of crime, the feds are saying. Bonanno family turncoat Gene Borrello, who recently co-hosted a podcast the feds say glorified his time as a mob enforcer, could find himself behind bars again for a string of new crimes in Florida. People, you see all these shows he's been showing up on? He showed up on a certain podcaster show, and he made a lot of threats toward me on that show. That's what's getting him in trouble, those shows. He knew that the feds didn't want him in these shows, and he ignored it. He still did it. He did it the Gene Borrello way. He just did whatever the hell he wanted. And he wanted to attack people. He didn't like what they were saying. And look, it's coming back to haunt him. Federal prosecutors in Brooklyn want the judge to toss Borrello, 38, in prison for 3 years, alleging that he spent his time on probation fighting with a girlfriend, bragging about mafia violence on YouTube videos, and using a burner phone to talk about drugs and violence. As a government witness, Borrello helped lock up more than a dozen members of the Bonanno crime family. And after he was jailed from 2014 to 2019, the judge sentenced him to time served after he served 5 years. His own crimes were particularly violent: multiple shootings, home invasions where victims were tied up, arsons, and beatings. After his release, he's been a blight on society, and his actions have been getting worse, federal prosecutors have said. He has shown no regard for the orders of the court or the law. He is the danger to the community. He has made no progress towards rehabilitation, said a Assistant U.S. Attorney Matthew Galeotti, asking Judge Frederick Block to sentence him at a hearing this Wednesday, which is tomorrow. In fact, since the defendant was permitted to leave for Florida, his conduct has only become increasingly aggressive and dangerous. The defendant has breached his court's trust over and over and over again. Those crimes include a January stalking charge, a December burglary arrest in Pinellas County, Florida, a September stalking bust where he was accused of calling his girlfriend 58 times, and another September incident which he allegedly threatened a Tampa Bay area bartender. Their latest pattern of criminal activity and probation violation since his release in 2019. Borrello first started smashing the rules of his release by associating with felons throughout his podcast and by threatening his ex-girlfriend in 2021. He used to co-host Johnny and Gene show podcast with another former gangster who flipped Johnny A-Light. I love the way they call these guys gangsters. Another mob turncoat, John Rubio, nearly landed back in prison after making an appearance on the show with John and Gene. In his podcast, Borrello glorified all aspects of organized criminal activities and described in details various acts of violence in which his co-host, John A-Light, had participated, Gauletti said. Now, just so you know, Gauletti is the new prosecutor on this. He took over the case. There was an old prosecutor that Gene loved, and once that prosecutor left, this person that took over the case does not like Gene at all, and Gene has said a lot of negative things about this prosecutor. And in February 2021, Borrello was busted threatening his ex-wife in audio recordings over Instagram. Oh, don't leave evidence, Gene. You're a gangster. You should know better than this. The minute you call the cops on me, I'll blow your husband's head right off, Borrello told his ex. Prosecutor said, don't forget about me. Remember what I used to do. I will grab your father right now and beat the dog crap out of him. Borrello did end up back in prison, but Block cut him a break in March of 2021 and sentenced him to only 120 days behind bars, according to court filings. But his bad behavior continued after he served those 120 days with a YouTube video titled Getting Violated by Probation and Going Back to Jail, in which he disparaged his ex-wife's husband as fat and goofy. In another video titled, Ronnie, Do You Smell That? He described how he and Ronnie, Bonanno Captain Ronald Gialonzo, beat a man so badly he soiled himself, prosecutor said. Let's see. Last May, he was accused of grabbing his girlfriend and smashing her phone during an unauthorized trip to Florida. And see, that's another thing. Gene made a couple trips down to Florida to visit the girl. And at this time I was talking to Gene. I told Gene to stay away from her, that it was going to be nothing but trouble. But Gene's Gene, and he does what he wants. He does what he wants. He doesn't care what the prosecutor says. He doesn't care what the rules are. Gene's going to be running his own life. And this is what happens when you run your own life, people, and you're not capable of. Once Gene cut that monitor off his ankle, he was out and running. He avoided being sent back to prison at a hearing following a month, but immediately ran afoul of probation officers by ginning up 2 offer letters with contact numbers that went back to one of his friends. So he used his friends as a contact number and gave them to the judge. You don't think the judge is pissed about that, people? When federal agents raided his home in September, so they raided his home in September. Gene doesn't exactly tell you this. They raided his home in September. And that was federal agents. FBI raided his home. They're not raiding his home for no reason, people. You know, the FBI is when they raid the home, they have to get permission to do so. So who gave him permission? Did Judge Block give him permission? The guy that's going to sentence Gene? Or maybe they didn't need permission because he was on probation. I don't know, but they did raid his house. They found a cell phone with text messages referring to tricking probation officials to steroids and other drugs, and to a September 3rd confrontation with a Tampa Bay bartender. Bro, I'm cracking him. He texted a friend who had a problem with a bartender, according to court filings. When the pal responded, I wish you had a GoPro. When all this went down, OMG, Borrello texted back. Bro, he's a herb. He can't talk tough no more. So basically, this guy's saying to Borrello's saying he sent them there. They intimidated this guy, and he wished he had a GoPro so he could film it. Gene wanted to see this on his GoPro. And this is on his phone, people. This is Gene Borrello putting texts on his phone that are incriminating him. So I say, people, when you write texts, always remember they can always be seen by somebody you don't want to see them. In a letter filed on Sunday, Borello's lawyer, Nancy Enos, asked the judge for leniency, contending that he was making significant improvements in his life, including getting a job as a car valet. He also challenged federal prosecutors' description of his stalking arrest, and including a letter from his girlfriend in her filing. Followed a heated argument. Gene perceived that his girlfriend was threatening to commit suicide, as she had previously threatened to do. This prompted Gene to pursue her frantically and call repeatedly, Enos said. In retaliation, she called the police, and Gene was arrested for stalking. Therefore, however, the charges were dismissed in court. Enos didn't return the messages seeking comment. Attempts to reach Borello were unsuccessful. Okay, that's the article, people. So let me just give you my quick opinion on it, and then you guys don't even have to listen to my quick opinion. You may not agree with it. Okay, so I'll put the story link under here. You got to pay $1 to subscribe to the Daily News, but the Daily News does a lot of mob stories. I'm not particularly a fan of the Daily News, but they do a lot of mob stories. Okay, so here's what this comes down to, people. Gene got on here yesterday. He was going off on me. His girlfriend wrote me some very nasty emails. But this is the problem. You can't blame other people for the decisions you make in life. And now this girl is saying that she's back with Gene, and she's reaching out to people here, and people have tried to help her in this community. But unfortunately, people who are domestically battered go back to their batterer, and I don't think Gene's hit her. I think this girl is more gangster than Gene. To be totally honest with you. I mean, she hasn't been to court. She has never ratted on nobody. I mean, I don't think. And she comes at you really hard. And I think Gene's got his hands full. That's all I can say. God bless you. But Gene, if you're going to jail I don't know what to say to you, Gene. This is you. This is not me. You can be mad at me because I'm reporting this. But everything I said 2 days ago is now in this article today. So if I'm wrong, Gene, why is this article out? Saying exactly what I said 2 days ago. And just so people can remember one quick time. Okay. And let me play this, guys, just for you guys.
You see this face? Is this a face that looks like that I give a fuck? These fucking girls are crazy. Right? Hell, look.
Crazy.
They're crazy. Why do you torture my life? You fucking lunatic.
To the door.
I did this to the door. I pushed the door in.
Dirty hoe. That's what you are. Hey, look, tell everybody how you fucked 100 guys. Tell everybody that on YouTube. Tell everybody that. Tell everybody you fucked your neighbor. Matter of fact, let me go talk to Andrew. I know we have, I can't really get in touch with you, so the bullshit we going through is fucking stupid ass fighting. You want to play games? I'm stabbing every single one of them. Let him come up here. Go. Watch.
I'm not going to forget to turn that mic on and ruin my old video. I just wanted you guys to see that, to give you an idea what's going on here with Gene. I'll probably be reporting on this one more time after he gets sentenced. The chances are someone will be in that courtroom and will be able to tell me right away what's going on. Listen, I'm not rooting for the guy to go to prison. Nobody should root for another man to go to prison. What I'm doing is putting out stuff that needs to be put out there. Because if I don't do it, the Daily News is going to do it, or Jerry Capisci. But this channel is proud of itself for beating these newspapers and Jerry Capisci's to the story. course, you're going to have people on here saying, call me rat, whatever. No, this ain't ratting people. This is reporting on what these guys are doing. And next is my next story is kind of different. This is going to be on Sammy Gravano. And well, let me pull this up. 1 second, please. I don't know. This is kind of sad, but at the same time, you got to remember what this man did to. He ratted on John Gotti and several other people and sent them all to prison. And then he got out of prison, and he has this show right here. And the show is doing well, but the problem is, it seems like, despite the show doing well, Sammy may not be doing well. And let me explain to you why. So Sammy yesterday, and this was written down by my partner in my wrestling, and he basically gave me this story, and his name is James Proctor, and I just want to read to you what he has said. Okay, he said more reasons why Sammy should not be doing lives. First of all, just so you know, they took Sammy's live down from yesterday. Sammy is doing a weekly live show on Mondays, and we have talked, and here's more reasons again why you shouldn't be doing live. Sammy goes on his live yesterday, and he is obviously not doing well. He is continuously coughing, and his voice sounds weak. The production crew tries to up his mic levels, and it just made things worse. As usual, he is answering the questions that come in via Cash App, the donations. Not Cash App, Sammy is off script. He makes mistakes. It got so bad that the live stream stops and immediately goes private. As of this morning, the live has not been put back up on YouTube. There are other reasons why the live was removed from YouTube yesterday. He talks about how he is unable to rent an apartment because of his criminal record. So Sammy doesn't live in a big house, people, like he says. I mean, like people thought. He didn't say that. A lot of people thought he was living in the big house. No, that's not his life anymore. And his daughter recently sold the house they were living in Arizona and moved back to New York. And as everybody knows, Karen Gravano's doing her own thing. And she's back in New York, and Sammy's down there with his production crew. Sammy tells everybody that he lives in the office where his podcast is produced. And, I know the name of his podcast. I know what it is. I'm not going to give any of that stuff out, people. But this was a security thing that they were worried about when he said this yesterday. He should have never said it. So the man doesn't have an apartment. He doesn't have a house. He's living in a strip mall. And he has a little room in the strip mall. He says that his crew works until 5 p.m. and then Sammy will stay and sleep in the office. I'm sure that his handlers realized he made a big mistake. A person is not typically allowed to live in commercial space. And I'm not going to say that part. Besides that, anybody could go on Google and find where Sammy is. And basically it talks about, sure, it's been 30 years since he ratted, but it isn't smart to tell people where you're staying. So here we have it, people. Sammy Gravano. It looks like he lives in this big house. See, a lot of times production companies shoot these houses in houses they rent for the day. None of this is true. Sammy lives where he lives. And you got to remember, he's 78 years old, and now he's starting to sound kind of fragile and very weak. And that's an issue. When you're that age, and I'm talking to you as an older man, I'm 62 years old. You need the comforts of a home. You don't need to be sleeping at your job. You need the comforts of your own bed. You need the comforts of when you don't have those things. And then, his daughter's back in New York, so he's down there. She sold her house. So, he can't even rent an apartment in his name. I'm like thinking to myself, these kids can't get an apartment in their name. So something's going on here. There's an actual family dynamic issue going on here. Why Sammy cannot get an apartment. He said this in his own words. Remember, they shut this show down in the middle of the show. They did, boom, it's gone. They might put it back up. They might go through it and fix it. But they shut the show down yesterday. And see, this is the thing. We talked about the live shows. The live shows. Sammy should not be doing lives. It's a bad move. Every live gets him in trouble. Something happens on that live. And boom, here it is. Something happened on this live. And we don't know whether Sammy's going to do another live. I'm guessing he is, because if he's kind of desperate, he's going to want to make some money and make it quick. And he does have well over 1,000 people watching his lives, and quite a few of them donate, and some of them give him large donations. So that might be the way he needs his money coming in. So people, it's not always this pretty thing that you see. People can make this stuff up and make it look like everything's working great in life. It doesn't. The man sounds very sick. He was coughing, wheezing. When they put the mic closer to him, you still couldn't really understand him. And he was still wheezing and sounded kind of feeble, old. He sounded like a feeble 78 man. He sounded like Joe Biden. Weak and feeble. So you guys tell me what you think. I'm going to drop this video. These are the two things going on. I hope you guys like this. And I got a great video coming out. I was working on, I was going to drop today, but I'm not going to, because I wanted to get this stuff out because it's important. Tomorrow, I'll let you guys know what happens in court with Gene. So you guys know that you have some place to turn to hear this information. Real mafia genre information, people. They can all laugh at the old man. They can make all their jokes in the world, but this is where you turn to get this information. Everybody take care. Hit that like, please. If you want to send me a donation, please send me a donation. This is how I make my money. I make my money on here. I don't go do shows, live shows. I do live shows once in a while. I don't go out begging for money. I'll say the one time, if you want to donate to this show, the Cash App is down here. Or you can donate underneath this show. There's a heart that you can hit. And you can do it that way. And this is how I make my money. I make my money through commercials. And it's not like people say, oh, Lee's not making any money. That's what people wish. But Lee's doing good. But I can always use more donations. So thank you. And that's to support the show. That's to put together shows like this. Real shows. Not shows attacking people's lives and tearing them apart. Real shows like this, people. Everybody take care. It's been a pleasure. Hit that like. Please hit that like. Love you all. I appreciate your support.